Hey guys, Positive here, and today I've got some exciting news for y'all. So, WG on Instagram and Discord just released this teaser trailer for the brand new Italian auto-reloading medium tank, the Progetto 65, complete with auto-reloading mechanism. So that's pretty hype, not gonna lie. And basically in this video, I'm just gonna break down this teaser trailer and try and glean as much information out of it as I can. I basically just watched that trailer over and over, like that 30-second clip, until my eyes fell out. But anyway, without further ado, let's get started. And first thing I'll do is I'll just play you guys back that teaser trailer unedited so that you can watch it for yourself in case you haven't already seen it, and then we'll start with the analysis. So the easiest thing to glean from this video is the mobility and also the HP of the vehicle. So first off, let's talk about the hit points. It's kind of hard to see in the screenshot, but it does say 1900. So this tank has 1900 hit points, which is pretty mediocre for a tier 10 medium. It won't last super long, but it's not like the bot shot with 1800. I don't know, nothing too special. And as far as the mobility goes, in most of the clips where it shows the speed he's going at, he's usually moving around at like 35-ish kilometers an hour, although the hype music makes it a little difficult to tell that he's moving that slowly. But right here in this screenshot, this is the fastest recorded speed I saw in the video, and also it looked like this is pretty much where he tops out, and it is 50 kilometers per hour. And not gonna lie, 50 kilometers an hour is pretty disappointing, considering that this tank goes 65 kilometers an hour on PC. Overall, I'd say this mobility is pretty similar to the STB1, actually, if you're looking for a good benchmark. I wouldn't call it bad, but it's also not really like a lightning quick tank like the Leopard, the 30B, or the Botchat. Now let's move into the really interesting part, the gun. In this video, we've got this 2-second snippet of the video that actually highlights almost everything we need to know about the Progetto's auto-reloading mechanism and how it works on Blitz. And just a heads up, it is slightly different from how the Progetto 65 works on PC, and it's actually rather interesting. So at the beginning of this clip, where he's clipping out on this FP4202, you'll notice two reload timers. The first one is this 3.0 second interclip timer, and the second one is this kind of like 5.3 second full shell reload timer. And the way it works is, when he fires, first the interclip timer starts ticking down. So you'll notice he shoots, and then the interclip timer starts ticking down. Once that ticks down towards 0, now he has another shell available, and then the white timer will start ticking down. So that means that, like, if he wants to fire as a single shooter and not consume his second shell, he has to wait a total of 3 seconds plus 5.3 gives him 8.3 seconds if he wants to not consume the second shell. However, after 3 seconds, that interclip is over and he can fire again, and that will consume his second shell here. So he shoots, and now the white timer jumps up to 6.7 seconds. So this is the moment when the Progetto 65 has the worst possible DPM of pretty much any kind of like combination of how you play this tank. Because this means that if you fire when you only have 2 shells available, you have to wait for the 3-second interclip and then the 6.7 full shell reload. So that gives you 9.7 seconds for each shot if you were to play it as a single shooter with just 2 shells in the magazine. That gives you 2,164 DPM. That is abysmal. That's tier 8 medium levels of DPM. You're competing with tanks like the T69 in terms of DPM there. And actually the T69 is going to have more DPM once it gets the buff that's coming in the next patch. But anyway, the one way you don't want to play the Progetto is do not play with only 2 shells in the clip. That is the worst possible thing you could be doing. Because if you reach all the way into the magazine, you'll see he fires the last shell right here. You'll notice that the reload jumps up to 8.1 seconds. However, he does not have to wait for an interclip at this point. meaning that instead of firing every 9.7 seconds, he only has to wait 8.1 seconds for this shell to be available. And actually, this 8.1 second reload is the fastest of all kind of like single shooter modes that the Progetto can have, because if you have 3 shells in the chamber, you can only fire once every 8.3 seconds, but if you reach all the way back and you have no shells remaining, it only takes you 8.1 seconds. So if you fire every time on this 8.1 second reload, that would give you 2,592 DPM, which is still bad, okay? This is worse than every other tier 10 medium in the game, even the bot shot, even the 30B, even the E50M. Like, all those tanks have better DPM. It actually puts you on par with heavy tanks like the T110E5 DPM wise. So that's really quite abysmal. Now the interesting thing is, like, because the single shooter mode takes into account this 3-second interclip before you can start rechambering the next shell, it also means that the highest DPM way to play this tank is to play it as a full autoloader. Because when you play it as a full autoloader, so just do the math, it takes 8.1 seconds to get your first shell back, and then you only have to wait for that 6.7 second reload to get the second shell back, because you're not waiting for that interclip. And then for the first shell, you're also not waiting for that interclip, so you only have to wait 5.3 seconds to get that shell back. So if you play the vehicle as an autoloader, that actually gives you a pretty respectable 3,134 DPM. I'm not sure if this is intentional on WG's part or if I'm misunderstanding it. It's a little difficult to be sure, because we never actually get the chance to see it reload a single shell throughout this entire video. But I believe I'm correct in my understanding here. So that's actually really interesting. It means that even though it is technically an auto reloader, if you really want to make the full use out of it, it's just play like an autoloader. There's no other way to put it simply. I think it's kind of a waste of this mechanic, and considering that this is still more or less being tested, I really hope that WG does fix this. I think it's probably an oversight, if anything. But yeah, that's the gun in a nutshell. Basically, if you want maximum DPM, fire as an autoloader. The next best thing would be to fire with an empty clip, and then after that, it's fire with 2 shells remaining, and the worst possible thing you can do is fire as a single shooter with 1 shell remaining. And also, it is 350 alpha damage, again, you can see in this clip. So the first shell he fires rolls for 330, followed by 352, and then his final shot rolls for 354. There's no chance he has 310 alpha, which is the only other alpha number I could consider feasible. 310 alpha would never roll that high 3 times in a row, so I think 350 is pretty plausible. And that's the gun of the Progetto 65. Pretty interesting. Now, as far as armor goes, well, the video obviously doesn't really say anything about the armor profile. However, for Blitz, it's safe to assume that tanks will have the same armor profile that they do on PC, although generally Blitz tanks have slightly weaker armor profiles. Not that it really matters for the Progetto 65, because as you can see right away, the turret's paper. You're going to get penned every time, unless they hit kind of this really troll mantlet edge. But other than that, you can see there's no armor. It's 140 millimeters. Even tier 7s will pen this. And then as for the hull, well, the hull's kind of interesting. So the upper hull is only 50 millimeters thick. So if you're using a big gun, say a 155 millimeter on the E4 with AP shells, that's a triple overmatch. You'll pen every time because it's only 50 millimeters thick. However, it is sloped at 73 degrees, which means that if you shoot it with smaller AP shells, you will ricochet. So you should generally avoid shooting this unless you have a huge gun. Your other alternative is to load heat ammunition, because heat ammunition will not ricochet until 85 degrees, which is practically vertical. So even if you have really awful heat pen, like bot shots 290, you'll have no troubles whatsoever dealing with this upper plate. As for the upper sides, it's kind of the same story, but they're only 40 millimeters thick. However, they are very sloped. But underneath that is the problem. It's only 30 millimeters thick. And yeah, it's also flat. So this is a triple overmatch, and you can see even at this ridiculous angle, you're still going to get penned in that lower side, along with this lower plate, which is also fairly thin. It's thicker than the upper plate, but it's not as well angled, so that's also a weak spot that you can fire at. Overall, there's not too much to say about this armor profile. It's not very strong. It won't stop very many shells. And actually, if you have a really big HE shell, you will pen the side with HE and the side of the turret. It's only like 45 millimeters on the side of the turret, 65-ish on the sides. Yeah, this thing is not very well armored. It's pretty similar to a bot shot in terms of its armor profile, in that the upper plate will be pretty troll, but everything else is kind of a weak spot. Now, WG did mention that the Progetto 65 will be coming as part of this pan-European kind of branch. I don't think that the line itself will be pan-European. However, I do think that the bottom 3 tiers probably will be. And basically this pan-European kind of tech tree is going to include 4 different nations. It's going to include the Italians, obviously, the Swedes, the Poles, and the Czechs. WG pretty much confirmed this at Tank Fest, apparently, according to AmonNet85. Shout out to her, check out her channel. But I've drawn up what I think the tech tree will look like. This is almost definitely wrong. Please don't spread this. This is kind of my take on it. But anyway, considering that WG likes to keep the bottom tiers pretty much super simple, like tiers 1 through 3 is always just 1 tank each for each kind of nation, I think that considering that this tech tree needs to represent 4 different nations, it's likely that we'll see tanks of different nations for tiers 1 through 3. So there might be like a Czech, a Swede, or a Pole kind of sprinkled into this tier 1 through 3 lineup for this pan-European nation. So when this line is released, I would check out those bottom tier tanks, because it will hint at what lines could possibly be coming next in the near future. I personally think that the Swedish TDs are probably next after Progetto 65, but this is all entirely speculative. As for whether or not I think the Progetto 65 will be worth it, I'm personally pretty hyped. Even though so far kind of like these tester stats, they're not like the most impressive, I still think it'll be pretty fun. It'll be kind of like an STB with an auto-loader gun, kind of like the old T-54E1's gun. I mean, 1050 clip potential in 6 seconds, can't argue there. New mechanic, 10 degrees gun depression, probably. I mean, it's hard to go wrong. I'm really hyped. Also, I've also heard that the Progetto 46, the tier 8 Italian medium tank, will be coming as a premium probably sometime before the line actually releases. I believe that this line will probably come 2 to 3 months from now. So we're looking at probably like an August or September release. But until then, hopefully we get a little bit more information on this line. And I'm excited. How about you guys? Anyway, that's about it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you have a wonderful day. And bye.